Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Innerd Podcast, where you get to embrace your inner nerd. I am your host, Aaron.
And I'm your other host, Brandon.
Brandon, how are you doing today?
I'm not too bad. I had an easy day at work. I feel like I didn't start getting stressed out until after I got home. So I'm okay.
I do want to make two quick little disclaimers. First, this might be this is going to be a more kicked back episode for anyone. There's not going to be any specific topic today. We're just kind of rolling with the punches, and we're getting an episode out to you guys just for the hell of it. And also, with that being said, Brandon is kind of in the middle of a couple things today. So if we end up cutting the episode short, we have to cut it short. It's just the way the cookie crumbles.
I don't think we'll have to. We should be fine.
And then a hidden third disclaimer. We're doing our setup a little differently again today, so there might be more background noise. If there is, we apologize, but hopefully it won't be too big of an issue. Anyways, going forward.
Aaron, how are you doing today?
I'm not too bad. Today kind of just flew by for me. I feel like I got up at 5:30 and made coffee, went to work, and now I'm home. It flew by so quick.
For me, the first half of the day flew by, and then after my lunch, I did a couple things, and then it slowed down a lot. But then right at the last hour, that's when my boss wanted to do picker training. I don't know if you know what a picker is.
Like an order picker? It's it's like a forklift, but instead of putting two forks up in the air, it puts you up in the air.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's an order picker.
Oh, well, we just call it a picker. But I had to do that training today. And I get my evaluation tomorrow. But yeah, it hit 5. My boss was like, oh, shit, I didn't realize what time it was. So then I had left, got here, showered.
Funny enough, when I worked at Home Depot, I was licensed to drive all of the vehicles that are at Home Depot besides the order picker.
Well, my boss would love to have you.
I specifically refused to do it because a lot of the stuff that was required to use the order picker, I did not want to have to do. And people are already asking for me to stop doing what I was doing enough as it is just to use the reach or a forklift. But anyways.
Well, yeah, my boss would love to have you.
Nah. And plus, it's just a Home Depot license. It doesn't extend to...
Oh, well, you also get training and licensing at my work too.
I'm sure that's true, but I'm trying to make an excuse to move on.
Oh.
So I did, just since the last episode, because we weren't really sure what we were going to talk about today, but we knew we wanted to record, I did just jot down some stuff. One thing that I do want to talk about it's not going to be super in depth, but I was just kind of excited for it. You remember the Warhammer fan-made 3D animation thing that went viral years ago?
Yes.
It's called just ASTARTES.
Yes.
So there's a sequel to that coming out. And it looks like it's being funded or it's being promoted by Warhammer themselves.
Oh, wow.
Because it's going to be on Warhammer Plus, their subscription service.
Oh.
And it's literally just called ASTARTES 2, but it covers a bunch of different chapters. Because even the trailer showcases the Scythes of the Emperor, the chapter that was in the first episode or first video or whatever.
Yeah.
And a bunch of others. And it looks sick. Because it doesn't look like it's just one narrow story. It looks like it's covering a bunch of different stories, which is kind of cool. But I was just super excited for that because that first one was just so kick ass.
It was.
And the fact that they're doing another one and it's bigger and better and so on and so forth is just awesome.
Yeah.
And yeah, especially now that I'm getting into like miniature painting and obviously like Games Workshop and Warhammer is like at the top of the food chain when it comes to miniatures and tabletop war games and so on and so forth. It like immediately came up on my feed and I was just like, that shit looks sick.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I was pretty excited for that. And another trailer came out, I think the same day. And it sucks that it came out a week late. Well, kind of a week late. A week late for us, but pretty much the same week for everyone else who's listening to last week's episode, which came out today as we're recording. So that got a little confusing. But anyways, Sinners. There's a new trailer that came out. And
that's the Michael B. Jordan movie, right?
Yeah. And it just, I don't know, like it similarly to like what we've been asking for, it's another vampire movie that leans more into horror.
Okay.
And they touched a little bit more on the story and some of the scarier parts of the movie and stuff. I do like the first trailer more in the sense that like it didn't give you as much.
Yeah.
But it made you ask a bunch of questions, at least for me. This one gives a little bit more to the story. I'd say a lot more to the story, but maybe not enough to spoil anything, really.
All right.
That's not entirely true. There's one character they showed, two characters they showed turn that I feel like would have been a big moment in the movie, but maybe it's not enough. I don't know. But it looks really interesting.
Yeah. I mean, we've obviously had conversations about like movie trailers nowadays, like on the side, and you made a whole video about it, but like,
No, I didn't.
About movie trailers? No, I didn't.
Scott Kramer did. I almost made a video about movie trailers, but I didn't make one.
Oh no, you made a video about
spoilers.
Spoilers.
Yeah,
that's what it was. Oh, but you're right. Scott Kramer did make a video on it, but just like how they just give away a lot. And I'm not saying this trailer did. I haven't seen the trailer, but like you're right. There are moments that like, oh, that would have been kind of interesting if we got to experience that for the first time, like while watching the movie. I personally just like teasers. And I know that another reason why they post a lot of trailers is so that people remember that the movie's coming out.
Yeah.
But if that's the case, then just release the trailer later. Like release it closer to the release date. And then just let people just like you were saying, like, oh, it's enough to draw me in, but I still have questions and I want to know more about this. Or do what they did with like some older Marvel movies, like Iron Man 2, for example, where they would put in fake footage that's like not going to be in the movie.
Yeah.
So that like, oh, you're expecting to go in for one type of movie, but then you go in for a completely different kind.
Yeah. Or just to do something as simple as like, I don't know, maybe like a smaller cut down teaser with like just a little bit of footage that's different or something. Or sometimes they do like that promotional type of trailer that's like it shows the anticipated like quotes from like movie critics and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, this trailer even goes in more about like Michael B. Jordan, the two characters he plays, because he plays twin brothers. From the original trailer, I assumed that was just like a small part of the movie and like one becomes like the main focus of the movie. But it looks like he plays two people throughout like the entirety of the movie. And there's a big focus on that.
Interesting.
But yeah, it's just like vampires.
How much do you want to bet one of them becomes a vampire? So that way, Michael.
That's kind of one of the things in the trailer.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, I was like, it seems like that's what they're implying.
Got it.
Based on like something that happens in the trailer, that one of them might be a vampire. But
because it also makes sense that Michael B. Jordan might want to be like, you know what? I kind of want to like
be a vampire.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he's like, can we make one of them a vampire?
Yeah. But yeah, it's the same director as like Creed and Black Panther. So we not only do we know that he works well with Michael B. Jordan, but we know that he's a good director.
Yeah,
in general.
True.
So yeah, that was kind of cool. There was just a couple like random. I want to throw in a couple little random things here.
Yeah,
that you might find interesting. So, dang, what's his name?
I don't know.
The guy who played Superman in Smallville.
Oh,
Tom Welling.
Yeah.
Apparently, he got arrested for a DUI.
No, really?
Yeah.
Come on.
I don't know the exact context of it. I didn't look into it too much because, like I don't like celebrity drama and stuff like that.
Right.
But it's just unfortunate that it's like, it's just like I don't know. But
you know what that kind of reminds me of though? And I know it's just pure coincidence.
Yeah.
But it was around the time when Henry Cavill first got it's like around the time when it was confirmed that Henry Cavill is no longer going to be Superman.
Okay.
And they talked about how there's like a Superman curse for actors.
Oh, yeah.
Like apparently every single actor who's ever played Superman like on TV, something happens to them in some way, shape, or form. Christopher Reeves obviously kind of got, if we're following the trend of like unfortunate events, Christopher Reeve kind of got like the worst end of the stick.
I'd say maybe the second worst.
Who's the first?
The original guy. The original guy.
Okay.
Who played Superman. He.
Oh.
Yeah.
Got it.
But and that's like that's always been a big conversation, especially when the Flash came out, because people thought it was distasteful to have him in the movie and blah blah blah. But anyways, back to your point.
Yeah. Oh, the Flash movie. Got it.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Like at the end when they did.
No, I know, but but I generally think of the CW Flash when people say in the Flash,
right?
But oh yeah, that sucks. I'm not going to compare those two, but yeah, it just seems that every single person. I remember there was something very specific about the guy who played Superman in Superman and Lois. Not the new Superman and Lois, the old Superman and Lois.
Oh, you're talking about Dean Cain.
Yes.
And it was like My Adventures with
Superman and Lois. I swore it was just called Superman and Lois.
Dean Cain was in... I don't want his picture. Clark and Lois, the new...
Clark and Lois. Is it like...
Oh, sorry. Lois and Clark, the New Adventures of Superman. So I was closer.
Got it. Yeah, I remember there's something that happened with him. I don't know the specifics of the Brandon guy.
Brandon Roth?
Yeah. Because I know something happened to him. I want to say it was more of like a publicity thing. I could be wrong.
I think you're thinking of Dean Cain, because Dean Cain kind of just became a rather unfavorable celebrity.
I thought there was something about Brandon Roth about like how much hate he got for his Superman or something like that.
Yeah, but that doesn't have much to do with the curse, because normally the curse that you're referring to that people bring up usually has to do with like tragedy,
Well, right,
or
but
like downfall to that actor.
that's the thing is like I remember there what like the whole reason why that there's a curse in the first place is because it happened to every live action Superman, including him. I just can't remember what it was, if anything happened. But
I'm not too sure.
and then now I think there was also another reason for. Oh fuck! I already forgot his name. The guy from Smallville.
Oh damn! I looked that up and I forgot it as
Tom
well.
something.
Tom Welling.
Tom Welling. I'm pretty sure there was something that happened to him too during the production of Smallville, if I'm right.
I think I know what you're referring to. I think he got injured, like in the first season or something like that.
Something like that. And then Henry Cavill, obviously, just like, he was let go as Superman, which was unfortunate. And then
that was kind of just a really bad, like crossing of communications thing, because he left. From my understanding, he left, or like he did. Wait, because it's like a three-way path between Superman, The Witcher, and then Warhammer. And I'm trying to remember what order it goes in.
Well,
but it was essentially, it's like, he heard he wasn't getting one, so he pursued another.
Yeah, that's what I heard.
But because of that, he ended up actually getting let go from that place.
Well, see,
it's like kind of like a blend.
What I remember was,
I know for sure Superman was simply just like James Gunn wanted to go in a different direction.
Yeah, but like what I remember, kind of along the lines of what you were thinking. I don't think at the time the Warhammer thing was even like remotely close to official. I think that was just like word of mouth. But
he was definitely trying to get it going.
Well, yeah, but like again, nothing was official. Again, this could be completely wrong, but what I'm sure happened is that he was convinced he was no longer going to be Superman. So he put in his full devotion into The Witcher. And then after the shit with The Witcher happened, then it's like, okay, you know what? Now I'm not going to really be able to pursue this, so I'm going to go towards Warhammer. Which, by the way, talk about a resume.
I know.
Like, oh yeah, not only did I get to play Superman, the greatest superhero of all time, the White Wolf Witcher, and now he gets to, we don't know exactly who he's going to play. I have my guess on who he's going to play. I feel like it's a very obvious.
If you're going to say Titus, I do not think he's going to play Titus.
Well, one, I wouldn't be surprised. Like 100%, I think like they're like, oh, well, they even look alike.
I wouldn't be surprised, but I think that would be lazy.
It might be, but I think another route is they could easily make him the chapter master.
That's what I think. And I was explaining this to Blake, and Blake is a relative of ours, but because he brought it up, we walked into a whole situation where they were just talking about Henry Cavill over there, and he was saying like, oh, he's gonna play Titus, and I was like, I don't think he's gonna. I was like, it seems like he has, just from like speculation and from what we know, it looks like he's gonna be a big creative like part of the whole series and whatever,
right?
Whether he's a showrunner or a writer or just like a consultant or whatever it may be, if he's going to play anyone, he might want to be like off to the side, like he's going to be a chapter master, or he's going to be, I mean, it would be cool if he's like an Imperial, or like essentially just like one of the many sons of the Emperor,
maybe,
or whatever. And
who knows? Maybe they'll just make an original character for him.
I mean, it's possible with how many chapters exist in.
Just with how big the lore is in general, you could
Right.
easily just squeeze in another
Yeah,
character.
I mean, I think that it would be a great opportunity to tell a new story in Warhammer, maybe make it a new chapter or just new members of a specific chapter.
Right.
Because even in every chapter, there's different companies, there's different, um, there's like successor chapters,
Yeah.
so on and so forth. Like the list goes on.
Yeah, it never ends.
It never ends with Warhammer.
Yeah.
So the possibilities are endless. And again, whatever it may be, I think I agree. I personally think they're gonna cast like there's gonna be like 3 leads because whatever team or whatever the story goes, chances are it'll be like a whole chapter or like a company in a specific chapter, and there'll be like 3 leads, and Henry Cavill will be a side character as like their chapter master or their company lieutenant or something like that.
Right.
Where he's just like off his like recognizable and you'll see his face often. So like the company, so that Amazon and the showrunners and publishers are getting like their money's worth out of him, but not enough to where he can like step off to the side and help more on like the creative aspect of it.
Yeah.
What were we talking about? Oh, Superman.
Yeah. We were talking about the Smallville guy.
Yeah, Tom
Welling.
Welling. So back to Superman, but on a different note. I'm sure you've seen this. It's like all over the internet right now, or not as much anymore. It blew past relatively quick.
Oh, I also had a comment about the last guy to play Superman, but I'll get to that later.
What is it?
I was going to say his curse was his unfortunate show.
Oh, so many people like that show.
I don't care. Okay, first off, I tried giving it a chance, hated it immediately.
Right.
He doesn't I don't care what anyone says. He doesn't play an accurate Superman at all. He has moments, but that's not enough.
Mm-hmm.
And then his children,
I don't like.
I don't
those.
like them at all.
No.
And obviously it's CW, so there's more drama than there needs to be. They tried to mimic like a Snyder thing, but failed. And there's too many changes that I don't like, and I know it's CW, so they don't really care about accuracy. I care about accuracy. I don't like the relationship between Clark and Lois. I don't like how angry Superman gets all the time. Like, people always talked about how dark Henry Cavill Superman was, but this guy is like, every clip I see of him, he's just angry all the time.
I don't know. I mean, the only thing I would give this show any credit for is like that last episode, what Doomsday looked like. Yes, he's the closest visually to Doomsday.
I would say the closest visually is the one from the Krypton show.
That one, that I would say that's like a new or pre-New 52 looking Doomsday.
Yeah.
Whilst this new one is the most like modern day looking Doomsday. Like if you look at Doomsday right now in the comics, he is just
I know
spiky as all hell.
I know, but I just also think he's like really ugly.
Yeah, it's in this show, you mean?
He's disgusting to look at. He kind of looks like a big fat spiky tumor.
Kind of.
And I didn't like their version of Doomsday. I didn't like their version of Steel. I didn't like any of it.
I agree.
Lex Luthor, I don't actually know much about that version of Lex Luthor. I just know that he's less of like a brilliant type of Lex Luthor that we're familiar with, and he's just more like, I'll do anything to kill Superman. He's more of like a bounty hunter from what I know. It's weird, and I could be wrong, like using the wrong term for that, but like, I don't care what anyone says. The Doomsday from the Snyder movie was even though he starts off not looking as visually similar, how aggressive he was, how powerful he was.
Yeah, it's like representative wise, he's in
like
my eyes, he's Doomsday.
Yeah. But yeah, the Superman and Lois show is just, I mean, I know a lot of people like it because they're all, teenage girls, but I don't.
But what I was going to get to is, so another teaser for James Gunn's Superman came out. And it's essentially just an even shorter version of the teaser that came out before.
Right.
The only difference is the audio is purely just like the more ambient version of the theme song.
Yeah.
That like they showed in that post of like the poster
Yeah.
from like a few weeks ago. And at the very end they showed a little bit more of him flying, and there was like a close up of his face.
Yeah.
Which a lot of people were like, "Oh, he looks weird. The shot is weird." Even Rob Liefeld made a comment being like, "It just looks bad," which I was like, I have my own opinions about that.
I
but
personally don't think it looks bad.
I didn't think it looked bad either.
It doesn't look like older Superman. And when I say older, I'm not referring to Henry Cavill, because Henry Cavill's perfect in every way. But he doesn't look like older Superman clips where it looks like it's like completely green screen. It looks like he's actually flying. The CGI and visual effects blend is actually really good to where it's not really distracting.
Well,
I would say the only thing that really caught my attention is, and it's not David's fault.
okay.
I just think it's like, I just think it's something that they should have fixed or like redid. But like, that old trend that they used to do on TikTok where like it's like you looking at the camera and then you looking past the camera and it looks like your eyes are darting in different directions.
Okay, see, that's what people were.
Right. I think that was the only unfortunate thing, because I think they made it to where, look over the camera when you're doing this shot, so it looks like his eyes are darting. I think they should have made it to where he's rather looking closer to the lens or looking directly at the lens.
Well, again, I didn't really mind it at all. But another thing is that right after like it blew up, James Gunn made a statement saying that it's like there's no CG on his face or him at all.
Right.
And the scene behind him is a real scene. Like there's an actual drone that flew through.
Right.
What country did he say? And I think it's just a little jarring because it is shot differently than we've seen in other Superman projects.
But that's not an issue.
Like he made it a point. He said that like the flying in this movie is going to resemble Top Gun, Maverick more specifically. He said it's going to be a lot of like drone flying, and it'll be like a lot of close-ups of Superman flying himself. So it'll feel more of the same way that like the jets were shot in Maverick. And I just thought that small little 1 second clip was a perfect representation of that.
No, yeah, it's not a bad clip.
But it's just like I thought like people blowing up.
I do think people are giving it more hate than needed.
They're just trying to find things to talk about for whatever reason.
Well, yeah, because if you don't have controversy, then you don't have a conversation, and then you don't have attention.
I'm gonna expose myself really quick. Today when I saw the comment from Rob Liefeld make that notice saying, "Oh, that shot just looks bad." That's what he said. He said it just looks bad. I didn't reply to that post directly because it was like a repost. But me kind of hiding behind my phone, I put a comment saying, maybe hold off on your comments when you're able to draw a more believable person. Oof. And I know like anyone who's like a major Deadpool fan would look at that and be like,
here's the thing. I agree with you.
I'm just saying like Rob, okay. I'm really outing myself to any comic book fans right now.
That's fine. I support you.
Rob Liefeld has contributed a lot to the comic book industry.
Yes.
But I'm not going to say who, but him, along with a select few other artists who are remarkably famous in their field, still can't draw as well as some of their, colleagues who have been in the business just as long as they have. Like,
Agree.
Todd McFarlane has made a crazy jump from when he first started Spawn compared to now,
True.
skill wise.
I would say he has his moments. Like there are every now and then though something that he draws and it's like, oh, it could have been tweaked, but like it's still really
detailed
good.
and like anatomy stuff, like Greg Capullo then and now.
Oh yeah,
Mark Silvestri then and now.
Oh fuck yeah, dude.
I know, but so many people, and even people who are younger than Rob Liefeld, who are just now joining, or have who have been drawing for a long time, but are just haven't been in the business as long, like Dan Mora or something. They're phenomenal artists and stuff.
Yeah,
and Rob Liefeld just his eyes are still too far. He draws eyes too far apart and. The muscles on his characters are too.
That's the thing is because looking. Like he's got the amount of detail down, and he really knows how to like emphasize certain things. But like you're right, his anatomy's odd. It's always been odd. They all have the same shaped head. Their eyes are all super far apart and super tiny. The stances are always super stiff. No matter how dynamic he makes them. And I did air quotes, sorry. They're all like really stiff. And it's just not that appealing. I think what saves his art, aside from, again, the fact that he can get really good with detail, is the coloring. But like also have you like okay.
Which he probably doesn't do most of the time.
You're right. But so another point, I'm an artist myself, and I know there's a lot I need to work on, especially when it comes to guns. Yeah. Rob Liefeld's guns.
Especially for how many characters he draws with guns.
None of them look like guns. They all look like blocks with a handle and a trigger.
Which is another thing Todd McFarlane's got really good at, too.
Yeah. I mean, especially in the beginning of his career, Todd McFarlane really emphasized exaggerating guns.
Yeah, but like now he can make like an exaggerated looking gun that's like believable.
True.
But, okay, again, this isn't me trying to, like, we are kind of going hard on Rob Liefeld right now, but, like...
You're right. Like, he doesn't have the right to say anything.
I was just like, you're not in the movie business, and I was being petty, so I made a comment being like, oh, well, draw a believable person. But it's, like, on top of all of that, that scene just still didn't look, or that shot didn't look that bad.
No,
and I don't think it's a representation of what the rest of the movie looks like at all.
So far, I'm actually genuinely impressed by the visuals of the movie, especially when it comes to Superman stuff. First off, that's obviously what's the most important is like Superman.
Yeah. Making sure it feels like Superman.
And obviously we've only gotten small clips of certain characters. But, like, if Mr. Terrific's technology is going to look anything remotely similar to, like, Blood Sports from Suicide Squad, then it's going to look good. It's probably going to look more futuristic and less, like, micro-esque.
Okay.
It's probably going to look more clean and, like, fancy. But, so that's probably going to look good. I can't say anything for... Well, I mean, we saw what the CGI for, like, that giant monster looked like. So, Metamorpho, he's probably going to look good.
Well, he's probably going to be a lot of prosthetics, too.
Well, yeah, but, like, when he does a lot of shape-shifting and what have you...
Yeah.
Yeah, that's going to be full CGI. Mm-hmm. We only saw one clip of Hawk Girl, and it didn't look terrible.
Yeah.
Still miss Hawkman from Black Adam. But the Green Lantern stuff, okay, here's the thing is I don't really want to critique Green Lantern visuals because as far as live action goes, one, I think that would be really difficult to do to have this visual representation of like pure light.
Yeah.
And I know there was a lot of harp on the Ryan Reynolds Green Lantern movie, but that's how I've always imagined, like, oh, if you were to have like condensed green light, that's what it would look like.
Yeah.
But So if it's not going to look like that, then it can really vary. Like,
But see, that's the thing. It's just like, and to kind of go off of your point, to imagine like a physical manifestation of energy that can shapeshift and turn into whatever the user's thinking and whatnot. Like, how are you supposed to make that look believable?
right. And like, again, like,
So it's always going to have some kind of, no matter how good it looks, it's always going to look fake.
well, not see, but that's not even where I was getting at.
Okay.
Like, I don't have an issue with it necessarily looking fake, because even with the Green Lantern movie, there was still like, again, like with what you have, that didn't look bad. And but I guess it's just like, how do you picture it in your head when you think of live action? So like in the Ryan Reynolds movie, they quite literally were like, condense it so much to where it becomes solid. So that's what it was. It was just solid objects that like had like a green, like
It almost
emerald
looked like,
flare
yeah,
to
it
it.
almost looked like glass or
Right.
marble or something.
And then in Zack Snyder's universe, it looked very smoky. Like,
Yeah.
it kind of looked like it was like burning energy in a way.
Yeah, with like the one reference that we got.
Right, but it was still really cool, and like, it
Yeah.
was enough to know what like a Green Lantern could do. And then in this new one, it looks very glary.
Yeah,
Like,
it kind of looks like when you think of like Godzilla's like plasma beam or whatever. It just looks like a clump of
light.
or energy.
Yeah.
And but there again, it was like a wall. It wasn't like a physical item or anything. So like even comparing that is hard.
Yeah,
to say.
it's hard to say, but like, all I'm trying to say is, realistically, I don't think the visuals look bad.
I don't either.
I've that's not the thing I've been personally worried about. Like, Aaron knows my personal opinions about the Superman movie or like James Gunn's DC universe, and that's not something we have to talk about today. But I've never
Nothing.
What'd you say?
I said I think you're wrong.
Okay, well, you can think I'm wrong, whatever. But I've never really been worried about the visuals, because like, we've seen what he did with Guardians of the Galaxy, and despite my opinions on Guardians of the Galaxy, the visuals aren't that bad.
Yeah.
So I've never been worried about that for his DC universe or for Superman or whatever. But yeah, that's enough I'm going to say, because if I keep talking, we're going to get into other stuff.
Yeah, because you're too embarrassed to have me diss you on.
Just because you can provide your opinion doesn't mean you're 100% right. You're allowed to have your opinion, and I'm allowed to have mine.
No, I'm right.
I'm glad you believe that. But that's your opinion.
Yeah, but it's a stupid conversation that just never really needed to happen in the first place.
Where's your battery
Battery? Oh, my battery's fine. That's not the thing I'm worried about. I'm more worried about like Casey calling or something.
So another thing I saw, how true this is, I don't know. I tried to do a little bit more research, but like the only truth behind it is just the consistency of the statement. But Jay, I don't know how to say his last name, Olive. Anyways, he's the guy who directed the animated versions of The Dark Knight Returns, and also the Flashpoint Paradox.
Oh.
So anyways, he apparently got a chance to read the script to the Ben Affleck Batman movie.
Oh, yeah.
And he said it was the best Batman script he had ever read.
I don't doubt that.
The actual quote is, "The original Affleck script was the best Batman script I have ever read. Ben had a kick-ass story, and I believe that the audience and fans would have loved it."
I believe that.
Especially from like the pitch and like all the pictures they showed. It was like
I was so in love with the idea of his Batman movie.
yeah, it's like there's a chance that like that could have been it.
I don't think it would have had a chance. I think it literally would have been not only the greatest Batman movie of all time, but the coolest Batman movie of all
like
time.
don't get me wrong, I love the Batman.
Well, yeah.
But yeah, I agree. Like not only do I agree that this could have, you know, in a different timeline, this could have been like the Batman movie, but also could have finally been the movie to show people like that Ben Affleck was like made to be Batman.
Not only that, but because like the only thing about everything outside of Ben Affleck is that everyone who tries to like, or not tries, everyone who pitches and follows through with Batman stories, they always do the grounded, self-contained Batman story. Like, for example, like Christian Bale and Robert Pattinson's Batman, they're very isolated in their own worlds.
Yeah.
Like, no real leeway for like more comic book or like outer world type stuff.
Right.
But Ben Affleck's movie would have been the perfect movie to not only it be like dark, gritty, but it could have that comic book flair where you have like this different version of Poison Ivy, Deathstroke, and then possible other characters like Bane and whatnot. Like you could still have all of that stuff that we love from the Batman comic books in a really like not so flashy and dark Batman movie.
No, I agree.
It would have been perfect.
Yeah, like the idea, it's like instead of it being a world that's created around Batman, it's like a Batman that exists in a bigger world.
Right.
Similar to how the new Superman movie's being made. Like it's Superman, he's already been Superman, and it's, you know, it's throwing the audience into a pre-existing DC universe.
Right.
Which, yeah, I agree. There was potential for that to be something great.
Yeah. But see, that's another thing is my biggest worry is that like despite the route that James Gunn goes down with his Batman, whatever that might be.
See, that's the thing, because it's not even really going to be his Batman. It's going to be whatever any...
Okay, but the point I'm trying to make is that I don't think it's going to reach the beauty that the Ben Affleck's Batman movie would have reached.
Yeah, like they really have to do something unique with it.
Yeah.
Like you know, I think we talked about this 2 episodes ago about how fans are kind of finally, you know, surfacing and being like, we're a little worried about Andy being the one to make the Batman movie, The Brave and the Bold, because he made The Flash.
That's right.
Yeah, and
oh god.
Luckily, like they have announced that like it's the production's being held off for now for it. And yeah, I don't know. Like I really hope that rather one, Annie, like I don't know how to say his last name. I keep saying Machete, but that's not right. But I'll call him Andy. Rather one, Andy like leans towards things that he's better at, like horror, and maybe like makes a kind of does his own kind of investigative story that's like Batman, but like a more horror situation, maybe. Or James Gunn boots him and he's like, all right, someone else do it.
You know, I have kind of an
because like all the other decisions, like they've got Mike Flanagan doing a Clayface movie.
Right.
They've, you know,
and that's supposed to be a horror movie, right?
Yeah. And I don't know how true it is because of how long ago that news was, but there was talks about like James Mangold, the guy who did Logan and The Wolverine and a ton of other really good movies. He was supposed to do Swamp Thing, and it's just, I mean, the new Supergirl movie looks really interesting, and they've got an interesting director on that, and like Jason Momoa finally becoming Lobo, and it's like all of the decisions seem right. It's just Andy is that one thing that's like,
no thanks.
One, I would just prefer them do something new, like go get a different director, get someone who can make a better decision with Batman, because we saw what he tried to do with Batman, and it was.
I mean, me and you have talked about this on the side, but like I've thrown out my personal pitch on what they should do with the DCU Batman to like make it more unique and to kind of separate it from some of the more grounded Batman stuff. I don't know if that's really something we need to talk about now, but honestly, and this isn't just being a tad biased, but I definitely think it would be a really cool decision because it might bring some more DC fans back. But for a Batman movie, I think James Gunn should hire Zack Snyder.
I do agree with you.
Like, just be like, we need all this like comic book Batman stuff in, but we want people to actually like not be worried about a dark, gritty Batman movie.
Yeah, like I think if obviously because James Gunn would have to approve the script,
right?
They would probably get. Whether it's James Gunn or someone else would probably like do something with Zach that's not so much Zach and more a balance between what everyone else likes.
Yeah.
Zack Snyder, what he would do really well is he could create a, atmospheric version of Batman. It probably wouldn't be Ben. But like he knows, despite what people want to admit or not, he knows what to make Batman do, and look like, and act, and he knows how to like put like deeper meaning behind Batman, and he also just knows how to like make him kick some ass.
Yeah,
obviously that has a lot to do with like other people like stunt choreographers and so on and so forth. But Zack Snyder knows Batman.
Yeah.
And it showed that he was very passionate about like bringing Batman to the world. And maybe it was like a slow start and then obviously the bumps with Justice League, but
I want to watch Dawn of Justice now.
There was a vision there that just did not come. It did not get its chance.
Yeah.
And I agree. I think Zack Snyder, even though he would have to start over and he'd have to start from scratch, he would know, like if James Gunn told him like, hey, we need Batman, we need a younger Batman, or we need a Batman based on Batman the Brave and the Bold, which has Dick Grayson as Batman, or whatever. Zack Snyder would know how to look at the reference material and be like, all right, let's make something new with that. Because his version of Batman was a loose, but very inspired off of The Dark Knight Returns.
Yeah.
But he created something completely new out of it. And same thing, like he could look at The Brave and the Bold with Dick and Damian and maybe do something new with it.
Yeah.
I think he might even have more freedom being able to design a new Batman, seeing that Dick Grayson would be Batman.
And that's the thing is, I mean, that kind of goes along with what I was saying earlier, is I personally think that the DCU Batman in total should be Dick Grayson. And I know that's really like tough to say for some people to hear because like everyone would want him to be Nightwing or what have you.
Right.
But first off, as far as like publicity goes, it makes it a little less confusing because then you can have Bruce Wayne's Batman as like the standalone Robert Pattinson, and then when you think Dick Grayson Batman, you think of DCU. Yeah. And it kind of just it freshens it up a little bit. You can have him do literally every single thing you'd expect Batman to do, to the T. The only difference is that this version of Batman wouldn't have some of the relationships with certain characters. Like him versus Deathstroke would actually be really entertaining, because then it doesn't feel like an equal ground. It feels like someone who's really skilled in every way Batman's supposed to be up against someone a little bit more, just because they have like the League of Assassins background. Oh wait, no, that's not. I'm thinking of a different version of Deathstroke. But
Yeah.
but still, like it's really intimidating, and it's also kind of a nod to like the Teen Titans. But I don't know. I think I have a whole list of reasons why I think he should be, but I'm just gonna leave it at that. That I think Dick Grayson should be the DCU Batman.
I partially agree with you. Because first off, we know that Dick Grayson, Jason Todd, and Damian Wayne are all going to be in the DCU.
Right.
Based on the future projects that have been greenlit, we know that.
Yeah.
There's also been talks about there being a Teen Titans project or a Titans project, whichever. And that could be any of the Robins. And they could even introduce Tim Drake.
The best Robin.
Arguably.
The best Robin.
Or it could even be Dick Grayson or Damian Wayne, depending on which direction you go. It'll probably be Damian Wayne.
Yuck.
Because he is Robin at this time.
Yuck.
I agree that the first Batman the Brave and the Bold movie should be Dick Grayson. To that extent. I know I've told you this before, but I think it would be really cool if Bruce Wayne exists on the sidelines at first. Like sprinkled throughout a bunch of different, even in the new Superman movie, we're not going to see it, but just hear me out. Even in the new Superman movie, and sprinkled throughout like the first few projects of, the DCU, we would just see like different hints of like Bruce Wayne, whether it's like references or like news thing like happening on TV, or like maybe there's like they've got the Watchtower in the Justice League, or whoever's part of like the existing Justice League or whatever is like meeting at the Watchtower, and Batman would just be like in the background, knowing that Dick Grayson is Batman in Gotham right now. Like Bruce is kind of handling like big picture stuff. And we as the audience would know just as little as like the other characters know. And we would start to learn about the Batman as the other characters learn about him. So he would be like a silhouette or even like a voice. Like that's it at the most. And then as we see him more and more and more, there would end up being like a movie. Maybe it's like a Justice League or a second Superman movie or something, where they do like a whole reveal of Bruce Wayne as Batman. And it would just be like maybe they go like a blue and gray direction with Dick Grayson, like he is in the recent Brave and the Bold series. And then there would be the black and gray for Bruce, or like an all black for Bruce or something like that. And that way, like he has like this scary, mysterious aspect to him, but it's also like every time we see him, he feels new.
Yeah.
And then finally, when we do get like a big project, whether it's Justice League or a Superman or a second Batman movie or something, or like a final on-screen like conversation between him and Damian talking for the first time in like a long time, it would just feel so like this is what we've been waiting for.
Yeah.
And it could also show like if we see Dick Grayson pull off a lot of stuff we think Bruce would do, then the diehard fans would be like, then what's Bruce Wayne like? And then we see him and he's just like what we would want from like a Zack Snyder Batman. He's just bigger and better than we could ever imagine him to be.
See,
and he could be scary too.
I agree with a lot of the reasons of like what, like a lot of the pitches that you're making, I think are interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And I think to a degree, even with my ideas, some of that could still work in a way, Because like how I depict a Dick Grayson Batman is a Batman who is to the audience Batman in every way. Like,
Right.
let's say you had the perfect Batman on screen, like in a very comic book like world.
Yeah.
You would actually never be able to tell the difference until he said, "My name is Dick Grayson." So,
Well,
like,
yeah.
my idea of a live action Dick Grayson Batman is Mark Silvestri's Batman. Because, like, especially for some of you who rather are going to do research after listening to this portion or maybe already know what I'm talking about, Mark Silvestri's version of Batman, one, has, like, the bluish tint, for starters.
Yeah.
He's still really bulky, but he has, like, a very long-limbed vibe, which Dick Grayson is known for being a little more slender. But, so, like, you would have this Batman who's perfect in any way, and maybe never really mentions who he is a lot. Like, maybe people just know he's Dick Grayson, but he just doesn't say it. But to some people, they actually wouldn't be able to tell until he said his name or took off his mask.
Mm-hmm.
And then, like, you're right. People would be like, oh, well, if this is what Dick Grayson's like, brutal, Batman-like, and, like, just perfect in every way, what's Bruce like? But, like, Bruce, like, kind of like Zack Snyder's Batman, had his moment as Batman. Like, he had his time.
Mm-hmm.
He did all the more grounded stuff. He did a lot of, like, the detective work. He did a lot of the versions of the villains that weren't as superpowered. Like, he was kind of like the Silver Age Batman, while Dick Grayson is like the new and improved Batman.
Yeah.
And but like Bruce still has the ability to come back as Batman, leading into some of the stuff you're talking about.
See, and another reason I would like them to do something, it would be an ambitious way to go about it, but one that gives them more time to like find the right Bruce Wayne.
True.
Sure, if you do something similar to like Matt Reeves where you start from scratch and you make like a very unique version of the Batman, you can make anyone Bruce Wayne.
Right.
In the right circumstances. But like if you're trying to go for a really comic book accurate, you can't do much better than Ben Affleck in Dawn of Justice. Like just the way he was built, his hair, his attitude, like that was Batman.
Yeah,
but if you're trying to top that and even try to go somewhat younger, because I still think he should be middle-aged-ish.
Are you about to throw out your fan cast for Batman right now?
No. But what I'm just saying is that like it gives them more time to get it right.
Oh yeah.
Especially if they're going to choose someone to be alongside David Cornsweet and like be Batman for like the long haul. And then lastly, and this is also very biased of me because Dick Grayson's my favorite Robin, I would love to have a moment where maybe Bruce comes back as Batman and Dick Grayson's like finally like this shit gets old quick. And maybe he gets like a little bit of an appreciation for Bruce. Because like the best version of Dick Grayson is like one that has like a father-son relationship with Bruce, but has a little bit of resentment towards like the ideals of Batman, and he wants to be his own superhero. So he finally gets to like throw that weight off of his shoulders and then picks up that Nightwing mask one more time. And then we get to see him as Nightwing.
Yeah.
That's what I want to see Dick Grayson as. But I do appreciate him as a good successor to Batman, or at least a temporary version. So I would like to see him start as Batman, build up to a really cool Batman. Similar to how they do it in like Spider-Man. Like they usually have Peter and they try to build it to Miles.
Yeah.
In some versions, or most versions, but like this, it would be Dick, but you build up to Bruce, and then that's almost like a hitting two birds with one stone because you're also building up to Nightwing.
You know what would also be very interesting with your idea? I mean, first off, I still have reasons on why I stand with my idea, but what would be really cool for yours is because it could lead into another very popular story, which Zack Snyder did cover, but James Gunn could approach his version if he wanted to. But let's say during the whole span of Dick Grayson being Batman, him and Superman get really close.
Okay.
Like they have like that brother type vibe that you kind of like expect Batman and Superman to have because they just work really well together.
And
maybe
Dick's more open
to like doing things like Superman's way. But then Bruce comes in, Dick becomes Nightwing, and Bruce is like, I respect you, Superman, but like you don't get it. Criminals, especially in my world, can't be handled with a smile and, like a slap on the butt. They need to be put down hard.
Yeah.
They need to learn a lesson. And like he gets really aggressive and he, not saying he kills people, but like he gets really dark. And then Superman's like, I'm sorry, Bruce, this is your territory. I get it, but I can't stand by and know that people are being treated this way. And then Batman versus Superman.
I don't know about that.
I'm not saying the plot exactly, but like that's what leads into it. Is like it starts off small with like certain disagreements, and then it gets like something bigger happens, and then it's like, okay, enough's enough. And then they
If anything, what I would agree with is that it could just build up to the relationship we love between Batman and Superman.
Yeah.
And you could even do a very Justice League, like the animated series thing, where like maybe they're very cordial and they try to be professional at first, and Superman's always referring to him as Batman, Batman, Batman. And then that one time that Batman like refers to him as Clark, and he's like, how do you know who I am? And he's just like, seriously, I know who everyone is.
No, you missed it. It would be the perfect opportunity to be like, you know my name? How do you know my name? I'm Batman.
I'm Batman. Yeah.
Or you can even redo the scene from Justice League where he's like, I don't know, I don't want to take off my Clark Kent, Diana Prince, John Stewart, Bruce Wayne, Wally West, and then he's like, damn it.
That would be interesting because there's speculation that this version of the Flash will be Wally West.
Yeah.
So we might get it very close to like the animated series type Justice League. Which would be
I
cool.
wouldn't be opposed to that because like I feel like Wally West.
I mean, I love Barry Allen, but like Wally West is like a great
They're just
substitute.
They're just very different kinds of Flashes.
Because they're
like,
also not that different.
No, they're not. Like, okay,
as the Flash,
just like alone, no, they're not too different, and that's kind of the beauty about the both of them. But there's one thing that Wally West that has that Barry doesn't, and there's something that Barry has that Wally doesn't. Mm-hmm. Wally's smart, but not Barry smart.
Yeah.
And there's just something that you kind of get, kind of like what you get from Spider-Man or like some of those genius characters. Like you could have moments with Barry where he's like building something or he's like working on something science-y, whatever. And it just has like that oomph that like not a lot of Flashes can get. But with Wally, like, especially if you want to be more comic book accurate, Wally has like his full foot in the door of the Speed Force. Like the Speed Force almost bends to Wally's will.
Right.
And so the amount of potential that you have with like really overpowered moments could be like really cool with Wally.
But similarly, I would like them to, if they did do like Wally West was like the Flash, I would like them to acknowledge Barry some way. So whether it's like maybe he had his own movie and there was like an intro between that like involved him like and Barry like both using the Speed Force, or like maybe there's like a Justice League movie where there's something like Wally's trying to accomplish and he's like, I need some help, and like Barry comes into the picture and they have like that's how they introduce their own version of Barry.
You know what else would be really cool is if this version of the Flash, so like this is like an existing DC universe, like characters exist and what have you, but what if this version of the Flash points out that like there was a lot of like multiverse stuff that happened that no one knows about, only like speedsters or maybe like a select few people. And like during his introduction, it shows his relationship with like the person who made the Speed Force, Barry, the mentorship that he got from both Barry and Jay Garrick.
Yeah.
And so like but you find out that like this whole catastrophic event happened. And Wally, despite how like cheerful he is and like he's got this smile on his face, he's a little traumatized at this like event, kind of like this flashpoint event that kind of scarred him, and it's what kind of makes him a little bit more careful as a superhero. And it kind of just adds a little bit more like character. Like it seems like he's got this weight on his shoulder that no one knows about until he talks about it. But he doesn't talk to anyone about it because he doesn't think anyone would really understand, but maybe Superman does or what have you.
Yeah. No, that'd be cool. Yeah. But I just, back to our main point. So far, there's just a lot of great decisions that are being made for what we do know about the DCU. And I just hope that if they do move forward with Andy being the director of Batman the Brave and the Bold, that they make it worth our while. Or that he like, because he's made good movies before.
Yeah,
Like the Flash isn't like shouldn't be a representation of his skills as a director.
you're right. I just like, as long as James Gunn, especially with, because I know James Gunn has been very like thorough with a lot of decisions. Like he wants to like triple check everything beforehand.
Yeah.
As long as he does that with whatever Andy makes, like he looks it over and he's like, fans aren't gonna like this. I don't like this.
Well, that's the thing. He says that like nothing gets greenlit unless he's, 100%.
Well, right. Like
if screenplay.
If he's in the mindset of like the fans will not like this for this many reasons, and he like fixes it, then I'm completely fine with whatever he does.
Right.
But, yeah. I mean, that's all I really have to say about that.
I am really curious about what a Clayface movie looks like, let alone one being made by Mike Flanagan. That's just crazy.
I don't know.
It's going to be awesome.
But we did get to see what the DCU Clayface will be like.
I know.
Which makes me even more curious.
Because it's a very comic book,
It is.
accurate version of Clayface from what we know.
And a very brutal one at that. Like, and you can do so many things. Like, you could do like it's going to sound stupid when I say it like this, but like a very Among Us type story. Like, you don't know who's who, or The Thing. It's going to be very similar to The Thing because Clayface can be anyone.
That's maybe assuming that this story takes place like sometime after he's been Clayface already, or if maybe it's going to be his origin story.
But either way, despite the story, he can turn into anyone. He can turn into almost anything. So, and like, because with the movie The Thing, I think it could only replicate living things, right?
Yes.
Clayface can turn into anything.
Right.
You could be sitting on a chair and you could die.
That's true.
So that's terrifying. Like,
it'd be like Prop Hunt, but
yeah, like imagine being a character like let's say the horror movie's like main character. They're being driven insane because like they can't even trust the ground that they stand on. They can't trust the house that they live in. They can't trust the people that they befriend or whatever. They can't even trust the fucking food they eat.
Yeah.
Could you imagine like being so paranoid of everything that you just isolate yourself or you just go mad or possibly even like sewer slide? Like
Sewer slide.
I don't know. The more monetized version of something that YouTube likes to monetize for dumb reasons.
No, I get it.
But yeah, that would be terrifying.
I think there's a lot of great opportunities there, in that the story's in great hands.
There's only one other character who could do that comes to mind, but the only thing is that you could tell it's him.
Plastic Man.
Yeah.
But
that's
maybe Metamorpho.
Oh yeah, Metamorpho could do.
Yeah.
But here's the thing: his metamorpho, if he turns into it, he's quite literally like that thing, because he can change the elements that he is too.
Oh yeah.
Like Clayface, he can like replicate it really well, but
Yeah, like he can
Metamorpho
mimic
actually
the textures of
he-
the surfaces and stuff, but
but Metamorpho could actually turn into like a metal chair or a wooden table,
Yeah.
or like that's even worse. But thank God he's a superhero.
yeah, good thing he's a good guy.
Oh fuck.
Yeah, no, I'm super excited for that.
Oh, and I highly stand by what's his name, the guy who plays Sonic. He said he wants to play Plastic Man.
Oh, I'd be so down for that.
Make it happen.
Ben Schwartz.
Yeah, make
Does
it
he?
happen. I think so. Make it
Yeah.
happen. And he could be a little pervy too, like because he said he wants to do something kind of like Deadpool. So like if it was a little bit more mature.
But just regardless, like if he's just like snarky and maybe they let him like be a little bit, improv. Oh my god, like if they let him improvise a little bit.
well, yeah,
or-
but like the image of like Wonder Woman when she needed a dress and Plastic Man turned into her dress. Like, could you imagine a scene like that? And he made like some like slur, like hit some like nasty comments, and it would just be so hilarious.
Speaking of Wonder Woman, there's a lot of like talk about who should be Wonder Woman,
Okay.
and we've talked about this before.
Yes.
And so the one that I don't agree with, even though I'm in love with her, a lot of people, I think it's purely just visually, they're like, oh, Dua Lipa should be Wonder Woman.
No.
I don't agree with that at all.
No.
But I love you, Dua Lipa. No, I'm just kidding.
No, you're not.
But I've also seen a few other faces and names being tossed around by like fans and stuff. But the one that I actually really agree with, it would be a very different version of Wonder Woman. Actually, it wouldn't. The only difference is she doesn't have the same. She's just not as tall as we would consider Wonder Woman to typically be. Oh man, I'm gonna look up her name really quick. I think you know who I'm talking about though. She's the
I really don't.
She's the is it senator, councilwoman in The Boys?
Oh.
I saw there's a concept artist who's like he's been doing a lot of like popular, his whenever he does them they like blow up all over social media, but he does like fan cast drawings and like realistic sketches of like actors as these characters and stuff, and he did her as Wonder Woman, and I was like, yes.
That's weird
think it
how
would-
much I can like see that.
Claudia Dowmit?
Don't get me wrong.
Downey?
Okay, here's one thing though, or two things. If I had like the ability to like have a say on like just what I want in a live action Wonder Woman, because not only we get it from Gal Gadot, but they actually did it with the animated version of Wonder Woman in the most recent like DC animated universe thing that they did
Okay.
with like Jensen Ackles as Batman and whatnot.
Okay.
But that version of Wonder Woman had an accent.
Oh.
I think so. First off, I'm actually not opposed to that actress. I see it for a lot of different reasons.
Yeah.
But one, I think Wonder Woman works really well with an accent.
I do too, but I also don't mind her.
I don't either, but something about it just hits different.
But there again, Gal Gadot had an accent. She didn't have a Greek accent.
No, but still, like something about that accent for like Wonder Woman, it adds a little bit more culture.
It sprinkles on the type of like ancient and like very
like Amazonian.
yeah. Like I understand. I agree, but like for the sake of it being like DC,
Yeah.
I've also grown up with Wonder Woman having a very like strong American style,
Right, and that's fine.
voice.
That's fine. I'm just saying, like, first off, just my personal preference in Wonder Woman. And, like, now, like, every time I hear Wonder Woman, I actually think of the voice of the animated series one, the one that I was just referring to.
I don't think I've ever heard it, but
It's like, I think it's, like, what visually and audibly, I think that's what woman should be like. Did
Wonder Woman.
What did I just
You
say?
said what woman should be like.
yeah. What woman? No, what Wonder Woman should be like. But and this is also, I don't know if this is more of an artist part of me,
Mm-hmm.
but sometimes I like when certain characters have specific visual details that one just like stand out amongst other characters. But I personally think Wonder Woman should have muscle on her.
Okay.
Like when you think of Superman, you think of this like big guy, like Superman's like a powerhouse. Although you can't really tell with David Cornsweat with his new outfit, but like David Cornsweat's like he's kind of a unit.
Okay.
I kind of imagine Wonder Woman being the same. Like especially with the fact that her arms are always like exposed. I imagine like you should be able to see like defined shoulder and biceps from Wonder Woman. That's my personal preference. Especially, and this is something that I kind of wanted to talk about too, but I don't know if we'll have time. But like, if anyone is fucking familiar with the absolute Wonder Woman, she's bad ass.
Yeah.
And I just watched, so I watch Variant Comics, the YouTube channel. They cover the absolute Wonder Woman. They covered the first 4 issues.
Mm-hmm.
And dude, she is sick.
I do want to talk about Wonder Woman, the absolute Wonder Woman, and the absolute universe in maybe a future episode.
Completely fine. I have so much to say about. I mean, I have things to say about all of them, but I specifically have so much to talk about the absolute Wonder Woman.
Yeah, she's sick.
Yeah, I'm gonna save it. But also physically, that's kind of how I imagine Wonder Woman. Because, like, again, for those of you who might look this up right now or who know what I'm talking about, that version of Wonder Woman, she stands taller than the average man. She's a fucking unit. And, like, she looks like she could whoop a god's ass.
So, I found the concept art that I was referring to.
Yeah.
For audio listeners, or as of right now, you know, I'm sorry, you're gonna have to look it up yourself.
Yeah,
it's DCU Wonder Woman fancast by 21x4 by Titer the Barbarian. That's what it's titled as. For YouTube, I will throw it up on the thing just for a quick second. I won't do this often. And I think you'll also be able to see it on Spotify too. But I'm showing this this is what I'm showing to Brandon right now. This is the concept art I saw that I was like sold.
Yes.
And again, she's not as tall as Gal, which is understandable. It's fine. It's realistic. Sure, like when you think of an Amazon from Themyscira, you think of like a really tall statured woman that's super muscular, but like in the realm of reality, in terms of like getting a strong and like believable actress and so on and so forth, I'm not super concerned about that.
That's fair.
But she, acting wise, and she could like bring the strong presence that Wonder Woman needs, and the attitude, anything, and she could not only keep up with like the men in the Justice League, but she could even like overshadow them,
you know,
if she needed to for whatever reason.
You know what I would say, and this kind of goes back to what I was saying earlier about just preferences, what she could do, because I don't know if you ever played the remake of Call of Duty Modern Warfare.
I did not, but
she's in that
she's
game.
in it.
She does great with accents, and she's good. She's just a really good actress in general. But it would be cool to have like some flashback moments where like maybe in the past she did have an accent, and then like in modern day she covers it up with a more American accent.
Yeah, like I would even believe it if not. I wouldn't believe it if they were like, oh, the accent phased out. I would believe it if maybe she was like, oh, when I came to America, I learned very quick that I needed to like change my accent, and I've just gotten very comfortable talking this way. I'd be like that, especially how long she's been on the planet, let alone in the United States. I would definitely believe that she could easily talk in like an American accent
Yeah.
for as long as she has comfortably. Especially because a lot of other countries that speak English can do an American accent better than an American can do other accents.
Yeah.
Because they're more at least this is what I've heard from like Australians and like English citizens is that they get so much American media compared to like us getting their media that it's easier for them to like understand and like replicate the American accent.
Dude, I have a real life example of what you're talking about.
Oh, your boss.
My boss.
Yeah.
So when I first interviewed with the new job that I got, he had a flawless okay, first off, he white. He looks white. He's got blue eyes, dirty blonde hair. Like he looks just like a white boy. So with his very convincing American accent,
You didn't think anything
I didn't think anything of it.
Yeah.
And then there was one day, like after I got hired on, he said like a word or two. And I was like, is that an accent? I was like, maybe he just says things differently. Like, who knows? Or maybe I'm just dumb.
Uh-huh.
But then he started doing it more and often. And I'm like, that's weird. He didn't say it that way last time he said that. And then one day I just asked him, I was like, is there like an accent that I'm detecting? And it was also hard to tell what, like, if there was an accent, what accent is it? It was so hard to tell because there's sometimes it sounds like Ukrainian, sometimes it sounds something else. And I was like
he was covering it very well.
So well.
Yeah.
And I was like, is there an accent there? And he goes, yeah. And he starts speaking in his like just natural accent.
Yeah.
He's from like El Salvador.
Salvador. Oh my
Right.
God.
He's Salvadorian.
Okay. Yeah.
And like now he does it all the time because like he says that he's kind of nervous with his accent sometimes.
Okay.
It's not like he's like hard to understand. You can understand him perfectly. Every now and then I'll ask him to repeat something, but I was like, dude, that's like skill.
Yeah.
I'm like, I had no idea. And he goes, that's kind of the point because sometimes it distracts people. And I'm like, weird that it distracts people, but like, I'm more distracted at the fact that you were so believable as an American.
That you hid this so well.
Right.
I feel like I've been lied to.
I know. I kind of felt is this illegal? Like you're my employer.
Yeah.
But I mean, he's a super cool guy, so I don't really care. But yeah, like that's kind of what we're talking about. Like.
Sorry, we had a quick little interruption. I've lost my train of thought.
We were just talking about my boss, but we brought up my boss because of like how
Wonder Woman, right, and like how believable an American accent Wonder Woman could be if you just wrote it the right way.
Yeah.
Especially with Claudia playing Wonder Woman.
Yeah.
She's my vote, is what I'm saying. With David Cornsweet being Superman, I don't know. There's so many different ways they could approach Batman at this point.
Yeah.
Great casting for three Green Lanterns at this point. They said that they're doing like the official screen testing of the Lanterns show here like this week or something.
I'm kind of surprised on how okay I am with the casting choice that they did for all three Green Lanterns.
Me too.
Because like the guy that they chose for Hal Jordan, I'm familiar with him, but I would have never expected him to ever play a superhero.
Right.
Especially now, because he's like a little older. But the story that they're going with also makes sense. And then Nathan Flanagan?
Yeah, so
No,
Nathan Fillion.
Fillion.
He's playing Guy Gardner.
Well, right. But like
Kyle Chandler is playing Hal Jordan, and then Aaron Pierre. Sorry, I was just trying to give you the names.
Right. But Nathan Fillion, for those of you who don't know, he's been playing Hal Jordan for years.
Yeah, a long time.
Like voice acting. So like when I think of Hal Jordan, that's the voice that comes to mind. And now he's going to be playing Guy Gardner. And although I think he could have been a good Hal Jordan on screen, like especially for the version that they're going for, I understand why he would prefer to play Guy Gardner over Hal Jordan.
Yeah.
Because I think the guy that they chose for Hal Jordan would probably execute what they're going for better.
Yeah. It's like in a world where Nathan Fillion would play the same Hal Jordan he's been playing for all these years, sure, he would probably be a better choice, especially going the direction of like an aged Hal Jordan.
Yeah.
Because, you know, it's as unfortunate as it is, he's getting up there in age. But Kyle Chandler, I think, surprisingly enough, especially seeing like what he looks like with the beard that they're going for and like the salt and pepper look, and you know, alongside like Aaron Pierre, who's going to be.
So I wanted to bring him up real quick.
Yeah.
So I've only seen him in one other thing recently. I forgot what that movie's called. It's on Netflix.
Keep talking. I'll find it.
But he plays a Marine in that movie.
Right.
And I specifically watched that movie after finding out. Like, I kind of wanted to watch that movie anyways.
Rebel Ridge.
Huh?
Rebel Ridge.
Yeah. So I already planned on watching that movie, but after I found out that he was casted as Jon Stewart,
Yeah.
I was like, okay, I definitely need to watch this movie because he plays a Marine or an ex-Marine in the movie, which Jon Stewart's an ex-Marine. So I was like, okay, this will kind of give me an idea of what to expect from Jon Stewart.
Yeah.
Holy shit, dude. Like he does such a good job. And in that movie, that movie has if for those of you who might be familiar, it's very similar to like Walking Tall.
Yeah.
Like he's an ex-Marine. He comes into a small town under a weird circumstance, and
the only difference is he doesn't become like the sheriff.
He doesn't become the sheriff. He fucks up the sheriff.
He goes up against the police force,
right? Which is like corrupt and everything.
Yeah,
but like, but if that's what we're getting as like Jon Stewart, and
not only that, but he's like the most comic booky looking guy.
Yeah,
in real life, like he's got like the comic book jawline. He's extremely tall. He's muscular, and he's got like those piercing Jon Stewart eyes already.
That's the thing I was going to bring up, because like in the animated series, Jon Stewart always had his white eyes.
Yeah,
always.
Right.
And the only time he didn't have them is that one episode where it shows what his life is like on Earth.
Mm-hmm.
And you barely see him without his sunglasses.
Right.
And this guy's got freaking blue eyes.
I don't think they're blue.
I'm pretty sure they're blue.
Nah, I think they're like a light hazel.
They're
color.
Still bright as fuck.
Yeah,
so give him some
all
white
they're gonna
contacts.
have to do is a small, maybe not even like contacts. They could probably do a small little tweak on his eyes and just change the hue from like a hazel to a just pure green.
Yeah, but like, damn.
Yeah.
He does look like he comes straight out of a comic book. There's a few actors who look like they come straight out of a comic book.
Yeah.
Like,
and it helps that he's a good actor too.
Yeah.
No, I think he's a great choice. I'm glad that he seems enthusiastic about it too.
Mm-hmm.
As do a lot of the actors so far.
Which is always a good thing. Like you get a better performance out of a superhero when the actor's more invested.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah, and I think it does help that we have someone like James Gunn who understands comic books and like how to interpret them for like
media,
live action media and stuff. That, you know, again, it just adds on to the whole point of like all the right decisions being made.
Right.
It's unfortunate that Zack Snyder didn't get the shot that, like, you know, it's just like what he was doing needed time to be built up, and it just didn't work out in his favor.
Yeah.
But at least now that they're starting over, they have people who know what they're doing, you know, in the helm. so to speak. I'm so excited for Superman. That's going to be my most anticipated movie of the year.
Mm-hmm.
I think last year, as much as I loved Nosferatu, and Nosferatu might have been, I don't know, it's really close between Nosferatu and Alien Romulus.
Yeah.
Um, I was really looking forward to Nosferatu, not only because it's like a great remake and reimagining of a story that I already really liked, but the fact that Robert Eggers was doing it is just like it was more so much curiosity was making me anticipated for it.
Right.
Whilst I was excited for Alien because
It's Alien.
I just love Alien, and the fact that similarly like a director that's so good at his art and his craft, you know, the fact that he was the one doing it and he was like bringing it back to its roots, it's like you knew it was going to be good.
Right.
And it was so good. I think Alien Romulus was my top pick for 2024, and Nosferatu's like right after it.
Yeah.
And then for 2025, so far, Superman is my most anticipated movie.
I'm kind of blanking. I know there are other movies coming out this year.
There's a lot of movies coming out this year.
But for some reason, Superman's the only one that comes to mind.
Like, we could probably do a whole episode. I don't think we will. Unless we want to. But we could do a whole episode just talking about, like, just going through a list of all of the movies that are coming out this year.
Wow.
At least noteworthy. Because there's going to be tons of, like, smaller movies and stuff, obviously.
yeah.
But in terms of, like, big releases or, like, movie theater releases, so
Like
on and so forth.
blockbusters.
Yeah. There's a lot. There's a lot going on in 2025.
Yeah, I remember like there was one movie that I was really looking forward to in 2024. Unfortunately, it didn't meet all of my expectations.
The Crow?
Yeah. I think there was a lot that could have been done with that movie. And there's still a lot that I do like about it. There's just there's a few marks that they missed.
Yeah.
And I think there's too much that they focused on that they shouldn't have. But anyways, that's a different topic that we've already talked about. But yeah.
Yeah. That was a really long conversation about the DCU that I did not think we would dive into.
I mean,
So
there's a
today.
lot to talk about, but it just depends on how deep down the rabbit hole you want to go.
True.
And there's also comparing the James Gunn verse and the Snyder verse. Which
Yeah.
one's better?
Like I mentioned, I did have a couple other things written down, but they're so like I'll just read them off. And actually, there's only one thing left. I have written down David Hayter appreciation. The reason I wrote this down was because I was listening to a podcast. I'm blanking on what the podcast's name was, but they were interviewing David Hayter, and they were talking more so about his filmography.
Okay.
Because just for anyone who's at all curious, David Hayter is most famously the voice of Snake in the Metal Gear franchise. But he's also like a really big name in the movie industry. And sometimes it's shocking when you find out some of the stuff he's been behind. Like the most recent thing he did was he was like an executive producer and writer for a Netflix show that was called Warrior Nun or something like that. It got canceled, but allegedly it was really good.
Warrior Nun?
Yeah. But He's also the guy who did the screenplay for the first 2 X-Men movies.
Really?
And he also did the screenplay for The Watchmen.
Zack Snyder Watchmen?
Yeah.
Damn.
He also, for the past 15 years, he's been the male voice in Star Wars The Old Republic.
What?
Yeah, so when they updated the game and like they needed a new actor to come in, if you do the male version of the main character in Star Wars The Old Republic, it's David Hayter.
I did not
And
know
he's
that.
been doing the voice for 15 years.
Sorry, while you were talking, I looked up Netflix's Warrior Nun. It looks very CW.
Interesting.
It looks really weird.
He said it was like a bunch of badass nuns doing badass stuff. I don't know.
That's what it looks like. But it looks like it could... It looks like there's no in-between. It looks like...
Kind of just got like that teenage drama quality.
It looks like... No, well, that's the thing. It's kind of like Superman and Lois, where like on face value it doesn't look like teenage drama thing, but it also like there's no in between. It looks like it could be really good or really corny.
I don't know.
But
I mean, it went on for 2 seasons, I think. Allegedly, when the second season came out, it had the highest Rotten Tomatoes rating
interesting.
at the time. I don't know if that still holds, but he was very, very proud of that. He almost directed a Black Widow movie.
Really?
When Iron Man had first came out, they were already talking. The next movie that was in line that they were already talking about doing was Black Widow. Before we even saw Black Widow. And the guy who wrote and was supposed to direct the movie was David Hayter.
Wow.
He even named his daughter Natasha because she was just about to be born and they still hadn't had a name for her yet. And I don't know the exact details to the story, but someone had like said Natasha, and I think he meant it as a joke, but he said that he named her Natasha to see if that would sway them to let the movie continue, but it didn't. His daughter's named Natasha after Black Widow.
Damn.
And I don't know, it was just something like, after listening to all the things that we know that he's been a part of, it's just crazy. I mean, he replaced Mark Hamill as the Guyver in the second Guyver live action movie. He was obviously much younger and he looked very different, but that was him. So he's not only Snake, but he's Guyver. I don't know. And he's also a Jedi. So do with that what you will.
Yeah.
Allegedly, he mentioned some other games that he did like voices in that I didn't recognize. And he's done like animated shows and he did an anime. But yeah, he's everywhere.
That's crazy.
And I was just like, damn, David Hayter. It's awesome. And he's Snake.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't get better than that. But yeah, I just like when I was writing stuff down for this and I had come across that podcast, I just like wrote down David Hayter appreciation. Like, why not? Maybe sometime in the future, if we have any interesting questions to ask him and we can get him on the podcast, we can do that.
Yeah, maybe. If only.
He does a lot of podcasts. Like a freakish
People
amount.
want to hear his voice.
And that's another thing too. He's not one of the not that it's common these days, but I've seen it before where like an actor becomes known for something and sometimes they're like, I've done other stuff. But David Hayter's like, no, I love it. He's like, you know me as Snake, that's fine.
Yeah.
And he says that's like why he loves going to cons is because like it doesn't matter what they know him from, especially if it's Snake. Like, he loves it, and like he even commonly goes into like Snake's voice, or like if you ask him, he'll do like the old Snake voice. And
That's interesting because like you bring that up, and I actually saw a clip. It was I think it was also a podcast. Just letting you guys know I'm terrible with names. You can tell me the person's name a million times, and sometimes I'll forget. But Rainn
Wilson.
Yeah, Rainn Wilson, most notably for playing Dwight in The Office.
Yeah.
And the guy from Breaking Bad.
Breaking Bad.
Like the guy.
Oh, Bryan Cranston.
Yeah. So they were talking, and Rainn Wilson brings up like, how do you feel about like the fact that you've played a character that like people are so like aware of, like sometimes they'll call you that person instead of
Walter.
Right.
Walter White.
He's had encounterments where people would go up to him and they would be like, "Guys, it's Dwight," and he's like, my name's Rainn and I've been in other things."
Yeah.
But see, this is what I'm talking about. You said his name and I already forgot it.
Bryan Cranston.
Bryan Cranston. He said, "Actually, I'm on the other end." He's like, "You played a character who was so significant and they buried their way into a fan's mind so well that is what they remember.
Mm-hmm.
They remember nothing but
if anything,
Walter
it's a
White.
Testament to like your performance as that
right."
character.
And he's like, "Honestly, I'm proud of it because that means I did like a good job." Those aren't the exact words, but
no, I'm familiar with the clip that you're
right. But like, I'm very curious. Like, what's the percentage difference between the actors who are so well known for something and they're sick of it, or they're so well known for something and they're proud of it? Because I know Chadwick Boseman, R.I.P. He mentioned that although he's proud of like the fact that he played Black Panther, sometimes he got real sick of like crossing his arms with fans.
Yeah.
But yeah, and there's even some people who I'm curious about, and there's one that I'm very curious about who I should know this, but I don't know this. Tobey Maguire is most known for Spider-Man. He's done countless other things that are nowhere remotely close to like superhero or action stuff. But he's most notably known for Spider-Man.
From my understanding, he seems to be okay with it. He just doesn't like paparazzi.
That's fair.
He doesn't like intrusive presence.
I don't blame him.
That's where all the memes and all the photos and all the videos of him like having like an angry look on his face, like he likes to live his life unbothered. But when it's necessary and it's appropriate for like a fan to approach him or something like that, he seems to react and interact with people fairly well.
Yeah.
Which is, I mean, like he did 3 Spider-Man movies, and to a lot of people, he is Spider-Man.
Yeah.
So
he is.
If I were Toby, I'd definitely be like, that's something you have to just come to terms with.
Yeah.
I mean, he's Spider-Man to me.
Hell yeah.
He's Spider-Man to you.
Fuck yeah.
But yeah, it's just like David Hayter. He seems to really love the idea that like people have held on to Snake, especially for so long.
Yeah.
Even after how long it's been since he's even played Snake. He hasn't played Snake since 20. Ooh, damn! When did Metal Gear Solid 4 come out? MGS 4 came out. That date's not 2008.
Wow.
Yeah. Was that 17 years? June 12th, 2008, so almost 17 years. That he's played Snake and people still know him and granted, a lot of people who are fans of Snake are our age and older, but still, like, he's super on board with the Metal Gear Delta,
Yeah.
and he's glad that like new audiences will hopefully play Metal Gear Solid. And
Yeah.
he said he was a huge fan of Metal Gear Rising. He said he like had replayed that, and he loved it.
Mm-hmm.
And apparently he's very bitter against not only Kojima but against Kiefer Sutherland.
I don't blame him with Kojima. I don't know who the other person is.
The guy who played Snake in Phantom Pain.
Well, okay. I know. Okay, I do know him. I'm bad with names.
Yeah, because apparently, Kojima, like, for the longest time, allegedly didn't even like David Hayter, and he had always wanted to replace him. And even after the first game, he had constantly have to re-audition for Snake. But what's Chris Patterson, I think her name is. I might be getting that name wrong, but she was always like the voice director or whatever for the English translation, and she always just chose David, but and not only that, but because Metal Gear would be made and released in Japan first and then have to be translated, they can't do any like creative liberties or anything like that. So, it made it kind of a difficult job to be Snake for all those years. And then the fact that, Kojima finally made his big and last game and didn't even consider David or want David, and he went straight to a big Hollywood actor who apparently didn't have very good encounters with David in real life, just put a very sour taste in David's mouth about those two guys. But he still has a love for Metal Gear Solid itself.
Well, yeah, he has every right
the
to.
Community and so on and so forth.
Especially with how much they love him. Like,
yeah,
he's like their equivalent to some people and the voice of Master Chief.
Steve Downes.
Right. Like there's almost no Master Chief without Steve Downes.
Yeah, and they almost replaced him too. Did you know that? When they were creating Halo 4, they were trying to recast both Master Chief and Cortana.
I don't think anyone, like, if you have the option to have him as Master Chief and you choose someone else, people would be furious. It would be different if it was like, oh, like, there's something that prevents him from, like, doing voice acting work or whatever. Or, like, if he passed away or something like that, and they're like, okay, well, we kind of want to like have a new Master Chief. That's different.
Yeah,
because like it'll still be like he'll always be Master Chief, but it's almost like as if you had like a bunch of Arkham games.
Yeah,
and you had the choice to bring in Kevin Conroy, but you didn't.
Right.
And I know that some people are thinking about Arkham Origins right now, but Arkham Origins just had like a different production. It was just a very different situation.
Yeah.
But
speaking of Master Chief, you said like the chance of like, what if Steve Downes like passed away or whatever? Knock on wood. And
knock on wood that he wouldn't.
Well, I'm just saying like you're putting the words out there.
Oh, well, I'm not. I don't want him to.
No, I know. We're not saying that. But I'm just saying if the instance were to arrive, I would be completely okay with them taking that as an opportunity to step away from Master Chief.
Oh, yeah, for sure. They have plenty of people they can make Halo games off of.
And maybe even coming to a close with like the games of Halo. Like maybe doing like a couple more spin-offs that like round it up to franchise as we know it, maybe continue with like books, comic books and stuff, but like send it off.
Well,
with
yeah, I'm
something close to like
I'm a little 50-50 because like I could understand why you would say that, and like because again, there's still a lot of things they could do and they haven't done. But like, let's say you were to go down the route of like continuing Halo.
yeah.
Again, there's so many characters you could make a video game off of, stories you can tell.
Right.
I wouldn't say it's as endless as Warhammer, but it's damn near endless.
I'm just saying I wouldn't want to see the day that Master Chief would have to be potentially recasted.
Well, that's not what I'm saying.
No, I know, but I'm just saying if the instance were to come that Steve Downes can no longer play Master Chief, I would much prefer them just be like, well, then there's not going to be Master Chief anymore.
Well, yeah.
Like that's a huge mistake they even did with the show. There was an opportunity for that guy to play Master Chief with his helmet on. Like, he's a good actor, but it's just something that came down to the writing and the production, and
it was terrible.
The helmet coming. It's like, fucking stop with it. Anyway, but like how easy it could be to just have a live action version of like a giant stunt guy in his suit and Steve Downes do the voice.
That would have been sick.
It's not that hard.
It's not.
Especially seeing that, you know, Halo's remotely possible in live action with that show. It's just so they're so close. And a bunch of idiots are running the thing, or not anymore, but
you know who could do a Halo show?
Who?
Or a Halo movie?
Me.
Yeah. But
I think I did that before in a previous episode.
You did.
I feel like that kind of goes unnoticed to the audience. I'm not only a huge movie fanatic, but I have concepts, dreams, and ambitions to become a movie writer and director.
Right.
And that's obviously conversations we've had for years and on to the sides. I just wanted to make that a point for whenever I'm like, oh, me. I don't want to be like, oh, like, I quote unquote know movies. I could do it better. Like it's a passion. So when I say that, it's like that's something you know, but they don't know. So I just wanted to.
Well, yeah. I mean, I've never like said it, especially like on the podcast, but like when it comes to like story writing, like comic books, for example, I'm like along the same route because there's so many things with comic books lately to where it's like it's very black and white with me.
Mm-hmm.
And there's some things that I think they did really well. And then there's some things where I'm like, if I like, this is how I would have done it.
No, I know.
But no, I'm just saying, like, I don't think it's like an ego thing. It's just like you as a person who really has like a love for a specific story, you just know how it should have been
right.
done.
But I'm just saying that like you understand what I mean when I say that.
Well, yeah.
But they might not.
Right.
So that's why I was just throwing that out there. But anyways, you were saying who could do it?
Well, yeah, I was going to throw out a name of someone who not only said they would do it, but would actually put in the love and attention that it needed.
Who?
Zack Snyder.
I do and don't agree with you.
Rude.
I agree that Zack Snyder would be able to put the level of attention and detail and care for it. But it would just have to be, you know, back to tradition. Like, he would have to be okay with it going back to a traditional set where he's the director and he's the creative lead on it.
Yeah.
Period. Whereas where some of the recent projects he's done recently fall short is where he tries to get too involved in the writing, like him doing the camera work himself, the editing, so on and so forth. So some of the stylistic choices that he tries to implement and that he thinks are really cool, some of the audience members don't find necessarily interesting. But like if you look at things like Man of Steel or The Watchmen, where he was more of just the director and like a team was executing his vision, then it becomes more,
Well, yeah.
it resembles more of a movie that we know of. So as long as that's the case, then I agree with you.
I mean, I do think that there's still some leeway to where, like, every now and then he has, like, creative liberties on, like, oh, I think this shot would be really cool. I'm not going to do it a lot, but I think this shot would be really cool. And I would be totally down for it. But overall, especially compared to what we got from Paramount, Zack Snyder doing a Halo show or movie would just be fucking awesome.
Yeah.
Visually, it would be amazing. And then there's also like the conversation on like I don't know. I'm very curious on what he would do with certain things, like if he would take more of a creative liberty with it, or if he would try to stick as close to the source material as possible. Because like there's been a few different renditions of what Master Chief looks like. I have my own personal opinion on what I think Master Chief should look like. Aaron has his own opinion. Everyone has their own opinion, and that's fine. It's just like it when you talk about like how they're described and everything, what comes to mind. There's a certain look that I affiliate Master Chief and other Spartans with, but again, that's just my personal opinion. Especially after listening to all the books too, because like Aaron and I have both been listening to the books.
Yeah.
And there's a certain like look that comes to mind every single time, whether I hear Master Chief or like a different Spartan. So yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I hope, I have hope is what I meant to say. I have hope that the future of Halo, I think Halo should be another topic for a future video because it's something I could talk about forever.
That's fair.
It's one of the few franchises that I know too much about.
Yeah.
So I can over talk about Halo. But yeah, I have a lot of hope for the new version of 343 that's now Halo Studios and Unreal Engine, and being able to potentially bring Halo to the forefront of like the gaming industry again.
Right.
If Master Chief or Halo does come back to live action, hopefully Paramount rather picks a better team or someone else does it.
I know that there are rumors of someone who wants to do it, or
that went around like right after Halo got canceled. You're referring to Christopher Nolan.
Yeah.
One, I don't think that's ever going to happen.
I don't either, but
Christopher Nolan, and personally, just another hot take that you and I both agree with. I think he ruined Batman for like the modern audience.
Yeah.
I mean, with the exception of Heath Ledger as Joker, not a lot of good, I personally think, came out of the Christopher Nolan Batman
I think it
movies.
ruined what, like, the idea of what Batman's supposed to be like. Like, a lot of people are like, oh, when I think of Batman, I think of Christian Bale, but it's like, you're not supposed to.
Yeah, and that's just, if he ended up doing change, like, went to that degree to change Halo, like, he was a fan of Batman, and he ruined Batman for me. So, if he's a fan of Halo, like, I don't want him to ruin Halo for me. You know?
Yeah.
I'd much rather someone who is a fan of Halo and wants to honor Halo properly.
Right.
Do Halo. Me. Yeah, that was all the things I had listed on my my little note
Yeah.
for today's episode.
There are some things that we did talk about today that are definitely making me think of like, oh, I definitely want to talk about those things like in a future episode.
Such as?
I definitely want to talk about the absolute universe.
How about we make that next episode?
Yes.
We'll say that now. So for anyone, if movies and games is one thing, I could understand if maybe the talk of comic books might deter some people. But based on conversations we've already had about the absolute universe for the DC characters, we're really more focused on like the narrative itself.
Yeah.
And I think just knowing what I've heard from you so far, even on conversations we've had to ourselves, I think you guys, the audience, will really enjoy what we have to say about, because we're not just talking about them as comic books, we're talking about Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman as like characters.
And the Flash.
And like how they were taken care of in this new generation and this new retelling of each of the characters.
And it's interesting too because like I'm going to use Wonder Woman just for an example.
Mm-hmm.
And I won't get too deep into it because we'll save it for that episode.
Right.
But like they found a really good way to introduce a Wonder Woman who's completely different in almost every way. And somehow she's like reeled in like on face value, you look at her and you're like, that's nothing remotely close to like how I imagine Wonder Woman.
Yeah.
But then like you listen to like how she speaks, her ideas, and like the things she does in the comic book, and it just reels you back into where like this is still the Wonder Woman I love.
Yeah, like at the core of it all. It's
right. And I personally feel the same way about Superman. There's not a lot on the Flash yet. Like there's only like just like details that we know of like what he's going to be like.
Yeah.
And then the Batman is the one that I think is the more controversial one.
At least in our opinion.
Right, because a lot of people like it.
But
we'll save that for that episode, which is the next episode.
Yeah, we'll talk about that next episode.
So I would also recommend for those of you who aren't too educated on comic books, maybe watch like Variant Comics videos on them, or if you just like, because I would say that's the easiest and fastest way to learn.
Yeah.
And then you can listen to our podcast, or if you just like, if you want to do some research on that, you can. Mm-hmm. But we'll get into the nitty gritty about all of it, and like especially me, I've educated myself a little bit more on the subject. But
what was the other thing you said? Like a list of things you'd want to talk about for later episodes.
Oh my god, what was it? It was.
I'm gonna just throw in Halo. I think we could do a whole episode on Halo.
I think that's what it was.
I also have a couple other episode ideas, but I would want them to be a surprise to the audience, so I'll run them by you after we're done here.
Got it. I really think it's the Halo one. I think, like, as you said, we can make an entire episode just on Halo.
Yeah.
And it could range from games, movies.
I was also going to say Metal Gear, but I think I have a better idea of how we could do Metal Gear on your channel.
Interesting. We'll talk about that on the side, but another reason why, and it's more just for audience reasons, I think that the audience would be more familiar when we say Halo than Metal Gear.
Yeah.
Like they would know more about what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Than what, like Metal Gear. Not saying that Metal Gear is not popular, but I would just say as far as our audience goes, they would probably know more about Halo than Metal Gear. But yeah. So we're going to be diving into the absolute universe of DC, which is honestly, I'm kind of glad about because I feel like I have more to contribute. Me, Brandon, I have more to contribute to the conversation.
Just because, like, I mean, you keep up with comic books more. So
I do my best. There's a lot.
Yeah,
so much. And it can kind of get overwhelming, but like it's also my goal. Like I've spent the last 12 to 13 years building my own comic book universe.
Right.
Like that's my pride and joy right there.
Right.
So, yeah.
Well,
that's who should make I want Zack Snyder to do my comic book universe isn't. It'll be-
Other than that, Brandon, any closing thoughts? Anything you want to say to? Oh, I almost just repeated what the therapy Keiko just said. Every time he's done with a caller, he's like, "Is there anything you want to say to the people at the computer before I let you go?" And they say like their closing words. And he's like, "All right, I love you. Goodbye."
Appreciation for David Hayter.
Yeah.
I feel like a very underwhelmed appreciation for Zack Snyder. That might be a little biased, but still, I think he's great.
Mm-hmm.
Halo was abused.
Halo is abused.
Uh,
People need to chill about this shot with David Cornsweet, Superman.
They fucking chill, dude. It's really not that big of a deal.
It's not that big of a deal.
Like, I have my gripes about like certain things with James Gunn, but like that, like the movie doesn't look bad at all. It looks great.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's about it. Oh, what's her name as Wonder Woman?
I already forgot. Claudia, don't.
Not a bad idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that about does it, Brennan.
That about does it, Owen.
Well, everyone, as always, we look forward to seeing you guys in the next episode. If you'd be so inclined to let us know about any of the things we talked about today, you can leave them your thoughts in the comments. A rating, on Spotify would be great. A like, and obviously, if you'd like to know what we do next, or if you just want to keep up with these conversations that seem to carry from episode to episode, you can always just see what's next by hitting that subscribe button and the bell.
I do have kind of something that I want them to do in the comments, whether it's Spotify or
What's that?
YouTube. I want them to give us their idea of who should play Wonder Woman,
Okay.
their idea of who should play Batman,
Okay.
and their idea of who should do a Halo movie and or show.
Okay.
And,
So 2 fan casts and a director choice for Halo.
and then if you want,
Okay.
their idea for a Halo game that's not Master Chief related.
I don't know. I don't know if they can top the ideas I had in my Halo
No,
video.
you're completely right. Those were sick. But like I guarantee you
Not to boast.
I guarantee you 90% of them are gonna be like Halo Reach 2.
That's what I was saying in that video. It's like I don't want ODST 2 and I don't want Halo Reach 2. I want something new.
Yeah.
Give me something new.
Okay, so maybe scratch that last one.
Yeah,
But
scratch that last one.
the Batman, Wonder Woman, and who could do a good Halo series. Or just any form of live action Halo. And that also doesn't have to be Master Chief. There's so many cool stories you could do in live action with Halo, just saying.
Right.
So
And back to closing notes. Best way to help us out is just word of mouth, letting your family and friends know about the podcast. We just talk about stupid, nerdy, geeky stuff, whether it's movies, whether it's games, whether it's comic books, whether it's day-to-day life, the stresses of work. Brendan almost got hit by a train, but it wasn't really a train last week. All kinds of stupid shit.
I have a video that was supposed to be rendering today, and it might have stopped while I was at work. So
Yeah.
I'm going to go fix that.
All kinds of day-to-day stuff.
I want to scream.
And with all that being said, you still get to embrace your inner nerd. I've been Aaron,
And I've been Brandon.
and we will see you guys in the next episode.
Peace. Peace.